somebody who's marketable. They want somebody who's personable. And he's just doesn't seem to be that guy, especially now that his reputation has taken a hit, regardless of whether it's warranted or not.
Yeah, I do believe that this whole saga is going to end up making Kawhi Leonard look worse than like the Spurs. I do think it's going to end up hurting him more. I actually believe that he should have spoken a little bit because, I mean, people just don't know what's going on with Kawhi. I mean, there's just big, like, is Kawhi being controlled by his uncle? Like, what does Kawhi really feel? And it seems like people would, I mean, and I know that's not Kawhi and it's never been Kawhi, but people wanted to hear at least something from Kawhi and they weren't able to. And I don't think this has helped his reputation. So I do think that overall has hurt his marketability. But, you know, going to Canada, going to Toronto, which is a great basketball city, and, you know, if he goes there and he embraces the love from the fans, you know, he can always quickly change that around and maybe, you know, he can become the best player in a country that, you know, have a whole country behind you, which for him might be good.
Yeah.
So let's discuss. I had another winner. I think the Los Angeles Lakers are a winner in this deal. One of the reasons for that is Kawhi, first of all, is traded to the West. He's traded to the East, not the West. So he's not going to be competing against the Lakers, at least for next year. He also wasn't traded to Philadelphia, which was one of the teams that was reported was one of his preferred destinations. So he was traded to a team that he never discussed. So I think the Lakers benefit in this because they haven't given up any of their young assets, and they have a good chance of signing him next year. So I think just because of that, the Lakers are winners in this. He wasn't sent to the Clippers, which would probably be the team that would be able to keep Kawhi the most if he was sent to another team. So I think for this reason, the Lakers are winners in this deal.
Yeah, and this really allows the Lakers to see what happens with the situation, hold on to their assets, and really now, if they continue on through the season, they feel like they're playing well, a lot of the young guys are developing, and they see that Kawhi Leonard is playing well in Toronto, now maybe they might be able to go through with another trade. For example, I think really in order for their financial situation to work out next year to have enough money to sign Kawhi Leonard, they'll be pretty limited in who they could trade for. But something that I did look into, and they would be able to make this work, would be a Kemba Walker trade throughout the middle of the season, maybe before the trade deadline. Now, if Charlotte is willing to trade Kemba Walker, which I really feel they should be to try to get an asset for him, now the Lakers might be able to swap out Lonzo Ball and Josh Hart for a Kemba Walker, who is he's scheduled to make $12 million for the 2018-19 season. And the reason why he'd be the perfect player for the Lakers to trade for is because his cap hold, due to the fact that he is earning so little money, is $18 million for when he becomes a free agent. His cap hold will be $18 million for the Lakers.
Didi, can you explain again to Olaf what a cap hold is?
So a cap hold is essentially any player who you have on your team as a free agent. If you essentially want to hold on to his bird rights, he's going to have a cap hold on your salary cap, meaning that now you're able to resign him over the salary cap to keep him. So that cap hold is typically, there's different rates for a cap hold, but because Kemba Walker is a veteran player, he's not coming off a rookie scale contract, his cap hold is 150% of his previous contract. Now, because his previous contract, which is $12 million in 2018-19, is very low, his cap hold will only be $18 million, leaving the Lakers with enough cap flexibility to hold on to his cap hold, sign Kawhi Leonard for a max contract, and then go over that cap to sign Kemba Walker, who is a very nice point guard who would be able to... He's able to score, able to control the offense, able to really handle the ball. So I think he'd be a perfect fit for this team, and you probably would not have to give up a lot to to get him. Not as much as maybe some other players probably would be able to hold on to your draft pick, especially if you're trading Lonzo Ball and Josh Hart, who are both very solid players.
All right. With this deal, in order to keep Kawhi, the Lakers would have to get rid of Luol Deng, right?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I did forget to mention that. Yeah, Luol Deng, they would have to probably give up probably at least one draft asset. Not probably. Definitely at least one first-round pick. Maybe another second, not maybe, at least another second-round pick, maybe another first-round pick. But more than likely another second-round pick, especially because at that point he will have 1 year left on his contract.
All right, yeah, and then so let's move on. I think those are the winners of this deal. Let's move on and talk about some of the losers who we feel like in the deal. My first loser would be the Philadelphia 76ers. I really thought that they should have gone, besides putting in Simmons and Embiid in the deal, I really thought they should have gone all in and gotten Kawhi for whatever it costs. Now, the reason why I do that, because I like Philadelphia, I like that they're young, but I do feel like they're missing a third all-star and like just a go-to scorer, someone on the perimeter, and I thought Kawhi would be a perfect fit for the team. I think he'd be a perfect guy who, doesn't have to be the face of the franchise because they have two other guys that can do that, but he would probably be the best player, at least for the next few years. So I believe Philadelphia had that chance to go for that guy, and they didn't go all in, and they didn't give the Spurs what the Spurs wanted. So I think Philadelphia loses. Now they have to play against him at least for this 1 year, and I think this hurts Philadelphia the most.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the fact that Philadelphia is a loser in this situation because they didn't get Kawhi. However, I do really feel that people had very high expectations going in for Philadelphia 76ers this offseason, and it was extremely unwarranted. They really had the hopes of either signing Paul George, and this is more, I'm sure the 76ers did as well, but 76er fans really had the hopes that they would sign LeBron James or Paul George or require Kawhi Leonard, essentially try to get one of these three superstars. And I think they were pretty much doomed from the start. Paul George automatically resigns with Oklahoma City Thunder. There's not much Philly could have done to sway them away from OKC. It seems like he had his heart set in OKC. If he was going to go anywhere, it was going to be the Lakers. Same with LeBron James. LeBron James, sure, his representation gave Philadelphia 76ers a meeting, but that's it. LeBron James wasn't even at that meeting. It seems that his heart was pretty much set on LA, again, from the start. He's essentially thinking about the future right now, about his career past the NBA, and a mix of really him playing out his career at a good spot where there's a nice young roster and a nice opportunity for them to get better in terms of the amount of money they have next year, and his future. And Philadelphia, while they have obviously some very nice young solid players, and he would have fit in, the young players on Philadelphia are better than the young players on the Lakers. It would have been a better fit for him in terms of trying to win championships for the future. That is not the same case as his future beyond basketball and really where his family wanted to go. So I think in those two terms, Philadelphia was pretty much doomed from the start. And very similar with the Kawhi Leonard situation, because I really do feel like Greg Popovich's not even preferred, I think he really wanted to get an all-star and continue to compete in a Kawhi Leonard trade. And Philadelphia do not have any all-stars. In fact, Philadelphia, out of the four teams, I guess, that were involved, including Boston, LA, and Philly and Toronto, really probably was able to offer the Spurs the worst trade package out of all those four teams because of the fact that Robert Covington, as solid of a player as he is, that's all. He's a solid player who struggled in the playoffs. All right, he's 28 years old, so although he's definitely not old, he's not young either. There's a lot of question marks surrounding Fultz, and Saric looks like he's going to be a good starter in the league, but he doesn't have much star potential. And having to offer up two more picks in this deal and probably two more pick swaps, it would have been a lot for the 76ers to have to get rid of. And especially because they themselves are still high on Fultz. And that report that came out last night is that his shot has been rebuilt. So we will have to wait and see how that works out. But yeah, Philadelphia 76ers, I think they were pretty much doomed from the start. I did want to quickly go into what do you think is next for Philadelphia now that they did not lose out. Now you got to remember they do retain cap flexibility for next year to sign another very big free agent. So what do you think? I mean, there are players like Klay Thompson, Kawhi Leonard, Chris Middleton. I'm trying to think of other players who are out there. Yeah, Jimmy Butler. DeMarcus Cousins is out there next year. What do you think? Kemba Walker is another player. Yeah, there's a lot of free agents next year. There are some restricted free agents, but those guys are pretty much reassured to re-sign with their teams, like Karl Anthony Towns and Kristaps Porzingis. But what do you really think the Philadelphia 76ers should do next offseason, or at least attempt to do? Because, again, I think it's going to be real hard for them to sign another star away from one of their teams next year.
So Philadelphia is definitely betting on their young guys, and I think it's more of a long-term plan. I don't think obviously they want to compete in the next few years, but I don't know if the expectation is to go to a finals right away. So I think they're betting on being one of the finals teams in 2 to 3 years, where Fultz gets to develop, where Zaire gets to develop, these other young players, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, become better. I do think next year, since they have some cap flexibility, it'd be great for them to go after like a Klay Thompson or a Jimmy Butler. I don't believe Klay Thompson's leaving Golden State. There's all these people talking about it. I just don't see it. I don't see why he would ever leave there. Jimmy Butler, he's going to be out there. I do think he's probably not going to stay with Minnesota, which would be my initial thought right now. But I don't know if Philadelphia is the right place. I mean, he might be a good fit. But I do think if you're Philly, it'd be nice to get maybe a player like Middleton or a player like Kemba, another off-ball player. But I think for now, from what it looks like, is Philadelphia's ready to just be patient. They have a few of these. They have a couple more picks. They're going to let their players develop, and there's just seems to me that they're going to start building from within.
Yeah, and I think the problem is they have no choice but to be patient. And really, as great of a free agency class as it is next year, Philadelphia just seems to be a second, third, or fourth option for most of these free agents if everything else goes wrong. And I agree with you that Klay Thompson, I believe, would be the absolute perfect fit in Philadelphia. And I do feel that if he were to leave Golden State, he would come to Philadelphia and play for the 76ers, because I believe he would realize that his fit would be perfect there. However,
Klay Thompson would be a perfect fit almost anywhere. He's one of those players. I also think if the Lakers are another option for Klay, I think they're a little bit more of a realistic option than Philadelphia, just because he's from that area. He's from the West, so
yeah. But I really do feel that he wouldn't see a better opportunity to win and to really fit alongside. However, like you just said, I think there's no way he's leaving the Warriors. The Warriors have literally passed up on just about every All-Star in a trade for Klay Thompson, including Kyrie Irving, Paul George. There's no way that they're going to let him go now when they've literally passed up on almost everybody to keep him. Hard to see them letting him go. Probably about a 95% chance he stays in Golden State. And like you said, Jimmy Butler probably wants to go to LA. He probably wants to go to either the Lakers and the Clippers. So I think Philly will really be his third option. Even fourth probably, because now, obviously with Kyrie Irving being a free agent too, he might want to team up with him either in New York, if they can make a sign and trade work with Boston. So he wanted to go to the Spurs. That was another reported thing. I don't know how that would be able to work, but again, these teams are able to make just about anything work nowadays. So if he really demanded it, I'm sure there'd be some type of trade lined up that would work out for both teams. So really, they will be limited in who they could sign, and I do feel they will strike out again next year on all the top free agents. And we'll have to do essentially what they have done over the last 2 years, is that sign complementary pieces around these players. And they've done a good job of doing that. So really, we'll see what happens, but they do seem like losers in this trade because of the fact that if they had traded for him, Kawhi Leonard did state that Philadelphia would probably be one of the teams he would strongly consider re-signing other than the two LA teams.
Yeah. Middleton might be the one option that maybe would fit